Hello, my name is Katie Groves, and this is part 1 in my series about preventing reaccessing by destructive cult groups. This is geared specifically towards survivors of trauma-based mind control programming, and we'll be talking about my experience about preventing reaccessing from the cult group that was exploiting me during my deprogramming process. This information may also be useful to therapists or to allies of survivors of programming of any kind, but this is specifically made for survivors in my attempt to help survivors to protect themselves from the groups that may be hurting them and to break free like I have. I'd like to pause and note that in my series about deprogramming, which I am not finished with, this is part of that actually, but I'm just choosing to post it separately. I have posted 2 videos, Deprogramming Part 1 and Deprogramming Part 2, that contain disclaimers about me and safety measures you can take while watching these videos, measures that have been helpful for me in doing this kind of work. And I ask that you please watch those first before you watch anything in this series, just like I ask you to do for any videos in the Deprogramming series. All of that stuff applies to this as well. So, this video is meant to serve as an overview, kind of an introduction to this series. And then in following videos, I will speak about different types of programs that I have learned to neutralize so that the cult cannot access them. And I'll speak about the specific techniques I use to prevent reaccessing during the deprogramming process before programs are fully dismantled. And this is the key thing here. Programming is very complex, at least it was for me. My programming was very complex, and to dismantle a single program often required time. Extensive work, sometimes days, weeks, or months. Some programs it's taken me years to dismantle in full, and some I'm still working on. And one of the big pitfalls that I found myself subject to in trying to break free from trauma-based mind control was that I had alters who would report every bit of progress I made in my deprogramming to the cult, who would then go inside my head by hypnosis, by accessing programmer parts of me, and access the parts that were being deprogrammed that I had been working on, and undermine my progress, reprogram them, scramble them, make them inaccessible to me somehow, me being the part of us that was trying to free us so desperately. And so I kept finding my deprogramming process undermined, and I kept finding my safety jeopardized as I was dissociatively going to these programmers and telling them what I was doing, and then having them undo my work for me as I was doing it. And it was unreasonable for me to expect myself to be able to dismantle a program within an hour before I would have contact with a cult member again when I was in the early days of my healing and I was still living with people who were programmed in the cult. And so I found that I couldn't just go inside and deprogram myself without putting myself at great risk for reaccessing, that I had to reprogram systems before I went in sometimes and prevent those systems from being accessed by cult members, so that I could basically freeze the programs and put it all on hold, scramble the access codes to the parts so that programmers couldn't get a hold of them, and recondition me. Basically, I had to make my systems inaccessible to my programmers prior to deprogramming a lot of myself. This wasn't something, though, that I could do immediately. I had to gain knowledge of myself and my programming, and I didn't become adept at this for some time, and that's why I haven't made this series yet, these kinds of videos, prior to making the first 30 videos in my series on deprogramming. I decided that preventing reaccessing was something I would talk about once I had already gone to great lengths to explain the deprogramming process, because I'm basing this all on the order, the chronology in which I was able to do this in myself. So once I got enough understanding of my systems, of my programming once I kind of grasped how the mechanics of all this worked, and I was fairly adept at doing grounding exercises and trauma work. I was able to start systematically patching up the holes in my defense, so to speak, against the cult, and take programmed parts that I was not able to dismantle in a day and scramble their access codes, reprogram them to trigger off other parts to come forward instead of the parts that would lead them to the cult, so that we could prevent ourselves from going back before we were able to fully deprogram. And that has been huge. Once I became skilled at that, which is only really recently, in my opinion, do I truly feel that I'm adept at this, I've been able to feel pretty safe from infiltration. I'd also like to note that this doesn't stop members of the cult from harassing me or traumatizing me. I've been yelled at on the streets. I've been followed. I've received threats before. And I was consciously present for them. And I was aware that these were probably people who were involved in this group, or perhaps I even knew for a fact that they were. But the uncertainty sometimes can be used against me too in this way. But I did not stop that from being traumatic, and I did not stop that from making me vulnerable in whatever parts of me were still programmed. So even if cult members are not able to access my programming, they can still harass me in certain ways that do shake me up and make me more susceptible to manipulation and control. And at the very least, it hurts. So I don't want to deny that I know how to prevent myself from getting hurt in life and getting hurt by these people just by preventing the reaccessing of my programmed parts. But I have been able to protect myself extensively. I have learned many tools and techniques for doing this, and doing this quickly so that I can do as much prevention as possible. I have tools for what to do to make sure that I'm in safe altars before I leave my house, and how to make sure that I'm safe on the internet, various different things. So this series is going to be about the things that I've found most helpful that I think could be helpful to others who've been through this terrible trauma like I have. All this stuff is really difficult. I myself am getting triggered talking about it, so I'll wrap this up. But I do want to say that if you haven't watched my videos about deprogramming, other than the first two parts that give the disclaimers and safety measures, a lot of that information I needed to know before I could do this. So while I am posting this as a separate series, the 30 videos I posted so far, and likely more videos that are to come within my deprogramming series itself, could be really helpful to you if you're trying to do this. And some of this might not work if you haven't learned how to ground yourself and do other techniques as well that I've shared about in previous videos. And also anything else that may be helpful to you that you need. I don't expect anyone to simply do what I've done and have it work for them perfectly. In fact, I don't think anyone's process is going to look identical to mine or even close to identical to mine. It's just I'm sharing what's worked for me in the hopes that people can use some of the tools and adapt them to fit themselves in ways that will work for them. So you may need other things as well that I can't provide. You may need them from a therapist, from another survivor other than me, and from, most importantly, yourself and your systems. But I do think that I share valuable information in my deprogramming series, especially the ones about mindfulness, that may be important to watch first before you watch this. So I will post some links to some of my videos that I think may be most helpful to watch before you watch these. But you also know yourself best, so whatever order in which you choose to receive this information, if you choose to watch my videos, I trust you to do what will work for you. Thanks.